want to, outline a favorite story that some of you will know, but I want to use it because it so clearly lays out some of the problems that everyone faces in this kind of journey to become oneself. And so it's often called Isaac's dream. And Isaac is this man who's a humble person. He lives in a small village with other people who are mostly, just humble people as well. They all live together. And he has this dream, this unlikely dream, where a voice comes to him and says, Isaac, it's time to leave everyone and everything you know and go out on the road that leads to that great city beyond here. And when you go there and you get to the center of that city, there you will see the castle and you will see a bridge that leads to it. And if you dig at the base of the other side of that bridge, you will find a great treasure of gold. Isaac, it's time for you to go. Well, he's a simple man, and he thinks, well, I'm not the person to do that. I wouldn't know how to do that. It wouldn't work. And besides, it's just a dream. And he goes out about his daily business as usual. After a while, the dream comes a second time. And this time he can't simply dismiss it because it is making him consider his life. And so he mentions it to his friends. I had this dream about this treasure and going out to find the center of this great city. And his friends say, cut it out, Isaac. You know who you are. We know who you are. That's not your life. You're not the kind of person that could go out and make a great discovery. And so he doesn't say anything more to his friends about the dream after that, but the dream is working inside him, and then the dream comes for a third time. Isaac, it's time to leave everything and everyone you know and go out into the world towards that great city and find the treasure at the base of the bridge. And so at that point, he decides he's going. And shortly after that, he gets up one morning and he leaves the village. He leaves everything he has. He leaves everyone he has ever known. And he begins to be a pilgrim wandering out on the road towards this great city of dreams. And it turns out to be a long road. And as he's wandering along the road, his clothes become worn and he becomes covered with dust. And he begins to look a little strange. Like a lost person, like a person simply wandering in the world, but he keeps going on in hopes that the dream will turn out to be real. And sure enough, one day he comes upon a great city with a wall and openings in the wall, and he can see his way in there, and he realizes this must be the city of his dream. And so he enters in and doesn't look at anything that's happening, although he can hear the commotion of the world inside the walls of that city. He goes directly towards the center, for that's what the dream told him. And when he gets to the center, he sees this shining castle and he sees a bridge leading to it. And he realizes the dream was true and he has made his way there. And he's close now to the center of the magical, brilliant city that he was aimed at. And then he sees that the castle is protected by fierce-looking guards who are there all of the time. And he begins to be afraid that if he were to go and try to dig for the treasure, he would be captured by them and probably punished or possibly killed. And now he doesn't know what to do. He can see the place where the treasure is said to be waiting for him, but he's afraid to go there, and he's afraid to turn and go back because he's left everything, and his life has changed. There is no going back from the place he has arrived at, and so now he doesn't know what to do, and so he begins to just simply walk back and forth, thinking about where he has come from, looking at where he's trying to get to, and in that process he begins to wear a rut, and he begins to be kind of wearing a smaller road back and forth down into the earth. And I want to stop the story there. We'll come back to it again later. So the idea at this point is that Isaac, like everyone else, will have been born with the angel lighting the light inside himself, and the dream is kind of a manifestation of this kind of flame burning inside him. And now he has had the courage to go and follow it. only he now has come up against something where he can't go forward and he can't go back, and his life has become a rut. So, just a couple of things to say about the story. So, the idea that he begins as a simple person is just a reminder that we all are that, regardless of what status we might have in life, and regardless of what kind of dwelling we live in. At a certain level, we're all just the simple people of the world. And yet, we are all dreamers. Everyone has to dream. Modern science has proved now that if you don't have occasional deep REM sleep where you have deep dreams, you actually will die. In a sense, you could say, from this inner perspective, our dreams are keeping us alive. And dreams are a delivery system for this whole connection to the other world, the unseen world, the eternal world, the world of great imagination. So Isaac, although he represents the simple person, actually has big dreams, as all people do on occasion. And there are occasions where we have to follow that dream, or we actually are neglecting our true life, and then we begin to lose vitality, and then we can get caught in the inner complexes and the various, kinds of troubles that can happen inside a person's life. Once he goes out on this journey, this adventure to fulfill the dream, he does wind up isolated. The story shows that. He's walking that path alone. And there is something about having to walk the path alone that is also a part of everyone's story. And you could say, or at least I sometimes think, we're in a passage where each of us has to make some part of the passage on our own. That's part of the trouble, but I think it's also part of the hidden benefit of the situation if we can find a way to use it or to be with it. I'm trying to use the story to match the emotional kind of things that people are going through now. And so in walking that path, there's a loss of many things. And this loss is primarily seen and experienced from the level of the little self or the ego. It's our ego self that is so disoriented in the current circumstances and can easily feel overwhelmed. The deeper self and soul does not feel that. As a matter of fact, I think the deeper self and soul imagines that we are now more on the path, that we are on more the initiatory path, that's what's trying to happen. And so that's how I'm seeing it. So he takes the path, he winds up more alone, and then eventually, as has to happen to everyone, he hits the place where the contradiction and the tension between the dream of his life and the fears in his soul, come together, and no further progress can be made. And so, to me, I'm stopping the story there partly because it's such a critical place that when we feel stuck, we think we're nowhere near where we were going, whereas the story shows that when we're stuck, we're actually closer to the thing that we were seeking. This is like one of those inner mysteries. Whenever we feel stuck, from the view of the soul, we're actually closer to the treasure, the inner treasure, the hidden treasure. We're closer to the thing that we're trying to find. I'm going to go back to the story. Isaac was caught in a rut, afraid to go forward, and having gone too far to turn back. And now something had to happen. Because now he was just sinking further and further into the ground of his fears. And so what happens at that point is the guards on the other side of the bridge had been noticing this strange man who is now just walking back and forth while always looking across at the other side of the bridge and the castle and everything. And finally, the captain of the guard came over to say, sir, we see you over here and we're worried about you. You seem to be disappearing into the ground there, and you seem to be, animated in a strange way. What's happened here?" And so Isaac, in one of those moments where he understands enough to realize that he has to acknowledge what has happened. He has to state consciously what he understands what has happened. So he says, well, what happened to me was I had this great dream that told me to leave everything and everyone I know, and go out in the world towards the great city and go to the center of the city. And there I would see the castle and the bridge, and I see it even now before me. And if I were to dig at the base of the castle, I would find a great treasure of gold. And that's why I'm here. I can't go back, but I'm afraid of you and the other guards, and afraid that I could be punished or even killed. And that's why I'm stuck in this place. And the captain of the guard said, "Oh, I'm surprised that someone of your age thinks that dreams can be real or be important. That makes no sense. I myself had a dream last night, and in my dream, it said that a man named Isaac, if he would only go back to the place where he came from, if he would only go back to his original hut, if he would then go to the hearth at the back of his hut, he would see that there are loose stones at the back of the hearth, and if he removed those stones, he would find the treasure of gold there." You see how strange and dreams are? And at that point, Isaac didn't even ask a question. And also, he had no fear or uncertainty about what to do. At that point, Isaac simply bowed to the captain of the guard that otherwise he would be afraid of, bowed to him and said, "Thank you." And he turned around and began to make his way back along the road he had come out on. And he made his way back. Now he's on the arc of return. And on that return road, he saw everything that he saw coming out, but he saw them now with different eyes, because now everything had turned around, and he understood that what he was looking for was back where he had come from. He went back to the village. He happened to arrive in the evening, and no one saw him go back into his little hut. And he went directly to the hearth at the back of the hut. And sure enough, he found there were loose stones, and he took the stones out, and there he could see shining from behind the hearth was a treasure of gold. And he eventually took it all out. And then Isaac had to do something with all this gold, so he built a much bigger house, actually a house too big for a person. It had a hall. In the center of it had a big hall, and when he finished building it, he wasn't showing off. He wasn't wasting what he had found. Instead, what he did was invited everyone in the village in, and when they came in, he asked them all to share their dreams, and people in the village began to tell dreams, and they began to help each other with the dreams, and pretty soon, more people in the village were taking risks and going out on the roads of dreams, and they were finding ways to express who they were on the internal level, and they began to find inner gold, and pretty soon that village became a place known for dreams, known for knowledge, and known for healing. And that's what happened with Isaac's dream. So the whole turnaround occurs, and it occurs because he faced his fears. It also occurred because he walked that lonely road, and he found a way to keep going despite his fears. And it also all turned around because he actually allowed himself to be stuck in the rut. He didn't fight with it. He didn't use the escape routes that he had used earlier in life. He simply allowed that to happen. And in the course of that, he began to face the fears. And then, strangely, as I mentioned earlier, something came towards him. It's not our job to go all the way and figure it all out. It isn't a heroic journey. It's a journey of awakening. And when enough consciousness occurs, when enough honesty occurs, then something comes towards us. And this is where the old idea comes from, that people are supposed to be respectful of the other. In the contemporary world, anything that's other gets attacked and blamed for the problems of the world. But in the mythological world, the other is the source of the knowledge that we don't have readily at hand. And the other, the real other, is the other world, the world of eternal and divine things, which is trying to bring to us the same thing that we're looking for. And so, to me, this story has that unusual laying out of the steps pretty clearly, and the kind of indication that the point isn't not to go out in the world. We have to go out in the world in order to encounter our fears, in order to find these places where we have to accept aloneness and all these other things that have to happen. But all of that moving forward was also paralleled by a moving inner or inside to where the real gold is waiting to be found. So I'll just repeat this idea. That which we have become is our greatest obstacle in becoming that which we are at our core. And so, so the story kind of shows that. The gold, of course, is a symbolic representation of the deep self. And the other way to think about that is in alchemy, where a person's lead. So the lead is the hard, immovable part of a person, the weighty stuff that keeps us stuck in the rut. That lead is what turns into the gold. The very fears that we have, the very wounds that we have, turn out to be the womb of the next life being born.